All right, guys, our next guest is one of the biggest names in the world of mixed martial arts, a former UFC Light Heavyweight champion, a UFC Hall of Famer, and is currently riding a 2-fight win streak in Bellator, the People's Champion. Tito Ortiz, welcome back to Submission Radio. How are you?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having the show once again.
It's a pleasure. And every time you come onto the show, all the fans in Australia and New Zealand, they just go crazy for you. So it's just a big pleasure for everyone. Now, before we get into your huge fight in Bellator, just want to talk about another big fight that you're a little bit associated with. You posted a video online of Cris Cyborg a while back training and mentioned it proves why Ronda Rousey is ducking Cyborg. Now, she obviously had another amazing TKO victory last weekend. Do you believe that's the case? Do you think Ronda Rousey is ducking Cris Cyborg?
Yeah, if she wasn't, she would already fight her. If I would already be done, they would fight at a catch weight at 140, and they already make it happen. That's one of the reasons why Ronda ran to 135 pounds. She used to be a 145-pounder when she fought in Strikeforce, but she cut down to get away from Cris. If the fight wouldn't have happened, or if the fight would have happened, it would have happened already. But Ronda wants to ride her glory trail, and I'm proud of her, though. I'm proud of Ronda. She's doing an amazing job. She's putting MMA on the map for women like no other, and she's a superstar in the sport, in films, and around the world. So, I'm proud of the girl.
Yeah, Ronda's doing great in the UFC, and Cyborg's been doing great as well in Invicta for many years as well. This is like the biggest fight in women's MMA. Cris is trying to get down to weight, but honestly, it seems like she won't be able to make the weight, especially now the IVs will be banned. As a close friend and former manager, lay it down for us. Will Cyborg be able to make it down to bantamweight, or is the only way that this fight's going to happen is if Rousey fights her at catchweight?
As a friend, as a training partner, I really see it hard for Cris to make 135. We talk about it, about making it. Making 145 is not super difficult, but it is hard for her to do. She's coming down from 170, when she's not in great shape, she's 175, almost 180. She's a big girl. She's fought her whole career. We're talking about Cris Cyborg at 145 pounds. Her whole career. And it's just her trying to cut down even more. I just think it would really make her not as great as a fighter as she is if she fights 145 pounds. Or even at 140, I think she would even do better. But it's just, we're going to try to get down before the year's over. Try to at least have one fight at 140. And, it's just a matter of time, I think. Miesha Tate has said she would fight Cris at 140. So that might be the first right step towards getting a fight with Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, certainly, and that would be a huge fight. Ronda's mum made some good points about Ronda not having to move up weight because she's the champion, but this would be the biggest fight in women's MMA history without a shadow of a doubt. It would do so much for the sport when it comes to the women competitors. Do you think, as a champion, even though Ronda Rousey doesn't need to move up in weight, this fight could do a lot for the sport and women's MMA if it does happen?
I think it'd do a lot for the sport in general, and even in the women's MMA. It's just one of those things like a Manny Pacquiao versus Mayweather, but I think this would be a real fight. I think you'd have a more exciting fight where two would want to exchange each other, not play the pitter-patter of dancing and boxing does, as the Mayweather fight did give you. I was bummed about it. I was a huge Mayweather and Pacquiao fan, and I was excited to see who would be the better boxer. But, the MMA is a totally different world. Cris Cyborg has been a dominant champion at 145 in Invicta over the last 2.5 years. And Ronda Rousey has been the dominant, bantamweight champion at 135. Am I correct?
Yeah,
bantamweight. Yeah. And, it's just Ronda's cut down to 135 to, in my eyes, stay away from Cris. And Cris has been the champion at the weight. So this is champion versus champion. And if Ronda wants to have girls where she can just walk through as she does, I really think Cris has the same thing at 145 where she has girls she just walks through. And I think both Cris Cyborg and Ronda Rousey compete against each other is the biggest and best fight for women's MMA.
Now, Tito, we mentioned the IV ban before in the UFC. Obviously, in Bellator, it's not something that you have to worry about, but you've always been a really big guy, especially for light heavyweight. Just want to get your thoughts. What is your stance in this upcoming IV ban? It's going to make weight cuts, a lot more dangerous. People think that guys are going to get knocked out left, right, and center because they're not going to rehydrate properly. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I really didn't start using IVs until like 2008, 2009. Randy Couture is the one who told me about it. Mm-hmm. I've always just done Pedialyte. And I've always cut, anywhere from 15 to 20 pounds for a fight. And the IVs helped out a whole bunch more. It makes it easier. But for other people who cut 20 pounds, they're usually smaller men. I mean, I'm a big guy, so I can cut a lot of weight. It's not a problem. I mean, I've mastered this. I've never missed a weight in my whole career. And I just, I think for a lot of other people, it's hard for them to accept the fact that in UFC they're going to have to cut IVs. I mean, I really don't see the negative benefits the athletic commission get out of us not doing IVs. They say it kind of makes it harder for guys to use any type of dope or any type of steroids or anything like that. But if the guys use it, they're going to catch them anyways. So I don't understand what's the difference. In Bellator, we don't have to worry about it, thank God.
Yeah.
But I mean, if it does happen during my career, I have no problem, rehydrating with Pedialyte and water and food and just get back up to normal walking around weight pre-fight around 220, 223, 224. That's not a problem. A lot of these other guys who do the IVs and they go from, 170 they weigh in and then all of a sudden they're 185, almost 190 when it's fight time. And that's, that's a big difference too for the size of a man that's putting that much weight on.
Yeah, certainly. And obviously going to affect things from going on from here. So interesting what's going to happen there. Now, before we talk about your Bellator fight, just want to touch on Bellator 138. A great night of action, a lot of fantastic fights. You were there, so you would have enjoyed it as well. Fans really enjoyed most of the fights, but there was a bit of criticism, especially from guys like Joe Rogan, saying that the main event between Ken Shamrock and Kimbo Slice may have been a work. I'm just wondering, you were there on the night. What were your thoughts on the whole situation? The fight was a bit weird, but to me and Casper, it seemed legit.
Well, for one, you got two guys, Kimbo is a street fighter, and Ken Shamrock is 51 years old. I'm not talking anything bad about Ken Shamrock, or Kimbo, either. But to be a main event, the name speaks for itself. The name sold it, They got over 2.2 million viewers, which is great. People still want to see those two guys fight. They want to see Kimbo fight. And I think the hate they had towards each other, it sort of fuel the fire. People understand, for people to use something to be a spectacle, that's why they watch it. No matter what, they watch it. You look at Conor McGregor. I mean, the guy is only fought 4 times in UFC, and he got, I think, probably one of the biggest pay-per-view buys this last fight he just had because he talks. He talks well. People like excitement. People like people who are fighters who put their heart and soul out there and say what they mean and say what they feel. And Kimbo and Shamrock did the same thing. As far as Rogan saying that it was a fixed fight, I was sitting here literally right in front of it. And the punch that Shamrock got hit with, I felt it. I was like, ow. And it was far from fixed at all. I mean, I don't know how they can cut the camera away and put blood on Ken Shamrock's face, put a gash in his face. It was far from fixed. Kim Shamrock just wasn't in shape. He was in good enough shape for a 50-year-old man, but wasn't in shape enough to finish, non-professional mixed martial artist. At the same time, I thought it was just a spectacle fight that got viewerships into it. At the end of the day, the fights prior to that were exciting. The whole card on generals was an exciting card, and I was happy to be in the audience.
Yeah. Well, speaking of in shape, last time we spoke to you, you told us that you were going to beat Stephan Bonner and then train hard for about 6 months to get into the best possible shape and really pursue the Bellator title. Did you end up following your plan? How's training been going?
I have not stopped. After the Bonner fight, I had to get a reattached retina. I detached my retina during the fight, so I had to get a reattached retina. Actually, it happened prior to the fight, probably about 2.5 weeks, and my vision wasn't great. It was good enough to go in there and put my heart and soul out and fight the way I did. I got the win. Ended up having to get surgery. I was pretty much bedridden for 3 weeks. The retina completely reattached, and I was able to see again. And probably about 3 months ago, that's about 4 months ago, I probably started putting in the work, slowly but surely, just getting, 1 trainings a day, 2 trainings a day at the most. But I haven't stopped. And now we just started this week doing 2 trainings a day. And I'm putting in the work, man. I some of the goals have just been set, and I've kind of really laid the table out of what I want to do and what I'm going to do. I got the title fight that I wanted, and I'm going to be champion before this year is over.
Certainly. Now, before you chose the Liam McGeary fight for the title, we read that Scott Coker offered you a fight with Frank Shamrock. I'm just wondering, how close to that did you get to taking that rematch, and what were the factors in you choosing the fight with Liam instead?
The took about maybe 2 seconds to figure that one out and say no. But let's think about this. Tito Ortiz, 2015, fight Frank Shamrock, who's retired. Who's on Tito Ortiz, who's on a two-fight win streak, and has an opportunity to fight for a world title. Why would I want to give my fans an easy win where I can go out saying I fought the champion and beat the champion and challenge myself like no other? I can take the easy road out. I can make the payday. I can get paid. This is not paydays for me. I have money. That's fine. It's not about that. It's about me leaving the sport as being a world champion. How I started this sport as being a world champion. And I challenge myself. I mean, that's why the fans love me. I challenge myself. I could have took a fight with Kimbo Slice. I could have took a fight with Ken Shamrock. But no, I didn't want to. I want to challenge myself as a human being, as an athlete, as a legend in this sport. I really have done so much for this sport. The sport has given me so much. I just really chose this because this is. I mean, right after that, I told Scott I want to fight Liam. He's like, "Well, why don't we do you and Kimbo?" I was like, "No, I want to fight Liam." He goes, "Oh, why don't you do you and Ken Shamrock?" I'm like, "No, I want to fight Liam." He goes, "Well, what about you and Frank Shamrock?" I go, "Scott, please, who do I need to talk to? I want to fight Liam McGeary." And he goes, "All right, well, I really don't think people really like this." I go, "Okay, we'll see it." And I posted on Twitter, and people went nuts. Legend versus champion. They want to see it. And all of a sudden, Viacom talking, Spike TV talking, and then all of a sudden Scott called me back. He's like, "This would be great. Champion versus legend. Let's do this." And bada bing, bada bang, we're in the ropes of on the road of being a world champion again. And I'm very, very excited.
Yeah, it really seems like Bellator is going for those showcase fights, like bringing back legends, doing the the stuff that gets really like viewership and eyes and casual fans. Like perfect example, Ken Shamrock versus Kimbo. What do you think about the direction the Bellator is going in? Because it's almost like they're moving away from the typical sports feel of MMA and they're going for that more entertainment factor, almost like a mix of pro wrestling and like pride events.
Well, I think it's just a mixture of the pride events exactly. Well, we got to get the talent. It's just getting the talent in there. The talent is there. It's just these guys need to find a little more. They need to find characters for themselves. And the guys who are with UFC, who aren't treated right, who don't like to be bullied around, they'll come to Bellator. And Scott does an amazing job. He's a straight shooter, and I'm excited to be a part of the company. And it feels like I'm a part of a family with Viacom, Spike, and Bellator. These guys treat me really well, respect me like no other, and it's just as this ball rolls, it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger as the little pebble drops off the snow mountain.
Now, Liam McGeary seems like a very laid-back guy, and you guys seemed cordial when you were on the stage at Bellator 138 together. How do you feel about the guy personally? What is it like fighting an opponent who you seemingly have no beef with, as opposed to your last fight against Stephan Bonner?
I think Liam is a great guy. I really like the guy. He has something that I want. That's a world title. Face to face, I have respect for the guy. When it's fight time, everything can be thrown out the window, and it can be two dogs trying to get their first meal. But I think it'll help me more that I fight with my heart and mind, and not with my mind and heart as I did with Stephan Bonner. I just fought with pure heart and anger. I hate it. I mean, every punch had bad intentions on it. I was swinging for the fences. There was no technique to it. I was trying to maul Bonner. I was just trying to kill him. I still wanted to punch him after the fight was over. I still want to punch him even now. I don't like the guy. I really don't like. He's just a scumbag. I don't like the guy, and I don't like. I mean, in my whole career, there are many people I can say after I fought him that I still don't like him. And Bonner is one of those guys I still don't like. He's a dirtbag. McGeary I have complete respect for, and I think it just makes a match that much more exciting to watch, because we're going to see who's the best technician, who has the better skills. And yes, Liam is 10-0, and he's submitted a lot of guys. He's knocked out a few guys, but has he ever fought anybody like Tito Ortiz? I really don't think he has. I watched what Emmanuel did to him, and to take him down at will like that, I know what I have to do to win the match, and I know what it's going to take for me to be a world champion. But like I say, Liam is the best right now. And 205 pounds in Bellator, Liam is the best fighter in the world. and I got to prepare for that. I got to prepare for the worst, and the best will happen.
Well, let me ask you something, because obviously you're a living legend. At this point in your career, do you think he'll bring anything to the table that you haven't seen before?
I hope. Will he bring anything different that I've never seen before? No, because, I'm training with the best right now. I'm training at Kings. I'm training with Rudy Super. I got a lot of guys that I'm working with, Rafael Cordera, Jason Perillo, a lot of jiu-jitsu guys that are helping, some wrestler guys that are helping. I'm just putting it to work. My mind's able to do it. My body's able to react in everything I'm doing. I'm doing my road work. I'm doing my lifting. I'm doing the things I need to do to prepare myself for war. I'm going out there, and I'm going to give it everything I possibly can to get my hand raised, and that's what I'm going to do on September 19th, is get my hand raised and be, a champion in two major organizations for the first time. No other fighter's done that.
Well, I mean, it's interesting that you say that. I mean, speaking of your career, the fight is for the Bellator Light Heavyweight title. Having already been a UFC champion for so many years, what would winning the Bellator title mean to you? And would it mean as much to you as when you won the UFC title all those years ago?
I think it will mean as much as it did the first world title, because just to the position of my life right now, where I am, so many people don't believe that I can do it, and I know I can do it, and I want to prove all my fans that back me that I can do it, that I know I will. I'm hungry. I want that world title. It means the world to me right now to be world champion again. It's just, things are destined in the world just as long as you believe in that way. And I believe, or believing MMA as a world champion, and that's what I believe, and that's what I'm going to make happen. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and I believe in it, and I'm going to make it happen. And I have no doubt in anything I'm going to do besides getting my hand raised. That's the only thing I dwell on and work for. And when training sucks and it's not fun and it hurts, and to get up every morning, and I still got to work to get that next step, I think of that world championship around my waist again. I mean, having gold around the waist, there's no feeling like that in the world, and I forgot what that felt like, and I want it so bad. I think that's why I've been putting in the work, and I've demanded for this fight, and I think my fans deserve it. Even the ones who hate me, the fans who hate me, they still want to see me win, or they want to see me get my butt kicked. Just as long as they're watching, that's all I care about.
Yeah, the worst is indifference. We're all very excited. Let us ask you this, though. Assuming you win the belt, how long do you see yourself sticking around in Bellator? Because we believe this may be one of the last fights on your contract.
Well, I have 2 fights, so I win this world title, I defend my world title, and I come back on the negotiation table, and I come back and I run it for 6-7 fights, and be the longest reigning Bellator world champion, and be the longest reigning MMA world champion in history. I don't know. We'll see what happens, dude.
Wow.
It is. Right now, all I worry about is Liam McGeary and me getting to the fight and fighting and getting my hand raised. That's all I'm worried about. That's all I care about. That's all I live, sleep, and train is for this fight on September 19th. So I come in 100%, run fast, feet movement, head movement, takedowns, punch, kicks, submissions for 5-minute rounds as hard as I possibly can. And just this kid's never been ragdoll before, and I'm going to show him what a ragdoll American style is truly about.
Oh, absolutely. Now, a lot of people that outside America may not know Liam as well as the Bellator fans in the US, and a lot of people sort of know Daniel Cormier as the dominant champion when it comes to light heavyweight. But how do you think Liam's skill set compares to the guys in the UFC? Because he's an incredibly tough fighter, and people may not realize how impressive he really is.
He's really good. I mean, he's at least a top 5 in my eyes. Cormier is the champion, of course, in UFC. But I think Liam is for sure the top 5. When I left UFC, my last few fights with the UFC, I thought I beat the trilogy I had against Forrest. I thought I beat him, 2 of the 3 rounds. But I went on prior to that. I beat, the number 3 guy in the world right now, or number 4 guy in the world, Ryan Bader. And after that fight, I fought Rashad 2 weeks on a 2-week camp. I lost to him, and then I lost to Nogueira, and at that time of my life, I wasn't mentally there at all. And I went on and I fought Forrest Griffin as my retirement fight because my mind wasn't there. I had to take care of some stuff at home. I had to take care of my kids. I had to take care of my future with my kids, and I did. I took the year off, and that's why I came back. When I came back to Bellator, life has been great, man. People understand as a fighter, if your life at home ain't right, you're not going to fight right. You're not going to train right. You're going to be in the gym, not putting in 100% in camp. And I've been able to do that over the last year with Bellator. It's been great, and my mind's right. You know, I see myself as a top 10 for sure, and it's just a matter of time. You know, Liam, I think, is the top 5 because he is that good. He's the greatest in Bellator, but I'm going to have to prove how much better I am to him.
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned that because that pretty much segues us perfectly into the next question. You mentioned in an interview last month that when everything is perfect at home, it helps you perform, and you've said it again now. Just curious, you know, without getting too much into it, obviously your ex-girlfriend Jenna Jameson, her lawsuit over your home, would that be a distractor for you at all going into this fight?
The plain answer to that one is I'm fighting, and that's why this is all happening. I'm fighting. It's, you know, once again, trying to get back in my head again. And I ain't letting it. I've got away from that thing 2 years ago, and I'm happy. It's all a facade that she built up in her own mind, and I can step away and not have to worry about it because I know the truth, and I know what she's trying to do to me. And it's sad. It's person needs help, and that's pretty much all I can say about that.
Yeah, no worries. Now, the Bellator Light Heavyweight division has recently had a new addition added in Phil Davis. I'm just wondering, we never got your thoughts. What do you think about Phil Davis leaving the UFC and coming over to Bellator?
You know, it's a guy who maybe didn't like the negotiation tactics from UFC. That's why he had to walk away. It's a good add-on to Bellator. You know, he's a great fighter. He's a great 205-pounder, and hopefully a lot of other fighters follow him. It's just a matter of time that it's going to happen, especially this Reebok deal that's going down. It makes it hard for the fighters to go out and get sponsors. As you can see, the fight that happened tonight in Bellator at the Mohegan Sun, all the sponsors all of a sudden came over to Bellator. It was nice to see it because now there's a huge opportunity to make huge money that you won't see in UFC anymore because the sponsor is able to sponsor fighters and not have just one company be a main sponsor for the whole organization as Reebok is with UFC.
You mentioned Conor McGregor before, and obviously now that we're talking about UFC, and UFC 189 just happened last weekend. Did you get a chance to see the uniforms, and what did you think of them? The
uniforms are horrible. Thank God I don't have to fight for that company. Gosh, I feel bad for those guys, man. They look silly. I'm not a big fan of it. I don't know. That's just me. I mean, I think each person has their own unique personality that shows through their clothing. That's the way I did. You know, when back in the day, can you imagine Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz have to wear Reebok and they couldn't wear Ice and Flames? It just wouldn't make any sense at all. So you lose the fighters. It's just you're controlling the fighters. The fighters are going to get an opportunity to make a name of themselves ever because they all look the same. It just looks like conveyor belt of fighters who are going out there fighting. You know, thank God for McGregor, who talks very well, and he's outspoken, and, you know, he's able to find a character and run with it. I mean, the guy is a great talker, and he can back it up in his fights. You know, he has changed my mind of what type of fighter he really is, and I think he's going to be great. I think he's going to be one of the greatest.
Absolutely. And just on those Reebok uniforms, I mean, white pants and a white shirt, they look like cricket players. It's just doesn't work. Now, Tito, we've got a few fan questions to wrap up the interview with you. Obviously, the fans love it when you come on, and we just chose about a couple of 2-3 questions just to ask you. So the first question comes from a guy username Trevor GDA. He goes, one of your former Bellator opponents, Alexander Shlemenko, has been suspended for 3 years from MMA for issues with PEDs. What do you make of this whole situation?
You know, I guess he should have never called me out. Once I choked him unconscious, it seemed like his career just really took a crap. You know, I stole the soul. And I guess I'm sorry, Alexander Shlemenko. I apologize to you for doing that, but you called me out. A lot of these guys get fought for this stuff, and it's stupid. Why do they do it? You think they think they're going to get away with it, and it's just it's sad for the sport. You know, it's sad for each one of the individuals that do get caught with it. And you get high names by doing it. I mean, big name guys who are doing it getting caught for it. You would never believe it. But I think it's bad for the sport. They set a bad example for the sport and for themselves. And, you know, they got to pay the price. And Alexander Shlemenko paying 3 years for it. That's a big price to pay.
Yeah, that's massive. Second last fan question, Tito. Funhouse wants to know, I'm a big fan of Tito. Just wanted to get his thoughts on Conor McGregor's performance at UFC 189. Is he a fan, and does he think McGregor is a bigger draw in MMA than Brock Lesnar?
McGregor is a bigger draw in MMA than Brock Lesnar. As of now, before Brock Lesnar was, just because he came over with all the WWF fans, and they're huge crazy maniac fans. But now Conor McGregor has a whole country on his side, and actually probably 2 countries now with the United States. And he got Brazil hating him. So, I mean, when you have them love you and hate you, you fall in my shoes where they love to hate you and hate to love you, which is great. And I think McGregor is, before I thought he wasn't as great as he is after the fight, because he was taking an ass whipping for a round, and he came back and he showed poise, he showed technique, he showed talent, and he's great on the mic, and he ended up knocking out Chad Mendez, and Chad's never been knocked out ever, and he knocked him out within 3. And he called it. He said he's going to knock him out in 3, and I wonder if Dana made that $3 million bet with him, saying he's going to knock him out. So I think McGregor's good for the sport. I think McGregor's he deserves everything he gets. You know, I hope he's getting paid what he deserves, and I got to say I got to respect the guy. He dressed nice, he talks great, and he fights great. Kind of like myself when I was a world champion. So it's nice to see a guy doing it nowadays and not afraid to do it and has no backlash by doing it.
Oh, for sure. I mean, my guess would be you'd be one of his idols growing up when he was watching MMA. Well, I mean, while we're talking about that, what do you make of all these people saying the fight was fixed and the UFC fixed the fight, so it played out in that way? Just ridiculous, right?
It's ridiculous. It was fixed. It was not fixed. I mean, they did pick Chad Mendez 2 weeks prior to the fight. They probably ran him through the PR tour, and, you know, Chad wasn't ready. I would love to see Frankie Edgar with that fight. I think Frankie Edgar would do a better job. But, of course, UFC, there's a little weight on McGregor that UFC wants him to win. The guy talks great. You know, if he fights good and he puts people's butts in the chairs and people watch on pay-per-view, and that's what they care about. You know, that they protect their commodity, and the commodity's Conor McGregor.
Wonderful. And I mean, last fan question here before we wrap up the interview. This one is from the Candy Fiend. Candy Fiend, interesting username now. He wants to know, do you think Fedor will sign with Bellator? Did you have any indication from your signings together? You guys did some legend signings together that he might be interested. And would you be interested in a fight with Fedor? Because this could be the biggest fight in Bellator history.
You know, I think Fedor is signing with Bellator. And if he can get down to 205, I would love to fight him. I've always fought at 205. I will always fight at 205 because I know I'm in great shape when I fight at 205. But Bellator can put that together. Wow, can you imagine after I beat McGeary, me and Fedor for the light heavyweight title? That'd be amazing.
I'm just wondering, you said you think he's signing with Bellator. Can you let us into what you know? Are there any indications that you've heard about that he's signing with Bellator? What can you share with us?
Well, you know, I know Scott Coker's a straight shooter. You know, I know he's an awesome guy, and I know Fedor's had a great time with Bellator at the signings. And I know Scott Coker and Fedor are good friends. His managers are good friends with them. And, you know, it just seems like when you're in a good business relationship, things just make sense. And I don't know. We'll see. I can't let the cat out of the bag too soon, can I?
Yes, you can. No, that's right.
Yes, you can. And just the final follow-up before I let you go, I just wanted to expand on that. You said, you know, if he comes to 205, you've always fought at 205. I mean, let's say Scott Coker, being the good businessman that he is, says, Tito, here's a boatload of cash. Do you want to fight Fedor at heavyweight, make history? Would you take that fight?
Yes, I would.
Well, there you go, guys. Well, for the moment, you can catch Tito Ortiz on Twitter at Tito Ortiz and watch him fight a Bellator 142 Dynamite September 19th against Liam McGeary. Also, check out his MMA apparel line, Punishment. There's a bunch of new additions to choose from. Go pick up a hoodie for winter. It's freezing here in Australia at www.punishmentathletics.com. Tito, it's always great when you come on the show. Thank you so much for your time.
I appreciate it, all my Australian fans and everyone from New Zealand. I appreciate all you guys who support me and follow me on Twitter. And, of course, whenever you Twitter to me, just put hashtag Ortiz Champ 2015. Let's get this started because by the time this year is over, I will be champ.